Looking back on this incident, I only now understand what a sick situation this was. But when you're a 7-year-old girl, you don't have a good sense on what's right and what's wrong. One day my mom came home from work in a frantic hurry. She is telling me that one of her clients is having an emergency, and she needs to leave immediately. Not thinking much about this as I'm watching her pack up some of her belongings. But she then tells me she got me a babysitter. I now feel reality sink in. I've never had a babysitter before. She says, on such a short notice, I was lucky to even find one. It's a cousin of a coworker of mine. I've never met him, but my coworker says he's good with kids. I'm not a happy camper at this point. The doorbell rings. Oh, that must be him, my mom says. She gives me a big hug and tells me she won't be back until early tomorrow morning. She opens the door, and I get a good look at who's going to be in charge of me for the next 15 hours. He's an unfriendly looking man. Early 40s, greasy long hair down to his shoulders. His hands look slimy too, probably from constantly having to push his hair back when it falls in his face. I don't know if I'm remembering wrong, but he's just not the type of person you leave with your kids. My mom was really wrapped up in her career back then. She either didn't notice or didn't care. Either way, it's just me and him now. I say him because honestly, I never even found out his name. I didn't care to know. We really only said a few words to each other the entire night. He definitely was not showing how good he was with kids in any way. And let me just say this. The creepy looking guy that's in his 40s and is available to babysit for a friend of a friend at the drop of a hat probably shouldn't be the person you put in charge of your kids. Sorry, I just needed to get that off my chest. Anyways, I stayed in my room for most of the night, and he stayed downstairs watching TV. Around 10 o'clock, I went to the kitchen to make myself a snack before I called it a night. Before heading upstairs with my snack, I told him that I'm going to bed. All he did was look at me and give me a head nod. Walking back upstairs, I kept telling myself, when I wake up, I'll never have to see him again. Later that night, I woke up at about 1 in the morning. I was really thirsty, so I head down to the fridge for some juice. Once down there, I noticed the babysitter wasn't watching TV anymore. He wasn't sleeping on the couch either. I thought to myself, he wouldn't be sleeping in my mom's room, would he? Her room is also upstairs, across the hallway from mine. Once I got back to my room, I decided to peek in her room to see if he was there. The bedroom light is off. The door is cracked. I hear something. It sounded like drawers opening. I look over by her dresser. I see him. I squint a little more. I see him standing there holding a handful of my mom's panties. So confused and weirded out by this, I quickly turned around to go back to my room. As I'm doing that, I bumped my elbow against the wall and spilled some of my juice. Hoping he didn't hear me, I get back inside my room. I turn the doorknob, close the door, then turn the doorknob back slowly. I jumped in my bed and pray he leaves me alone. At the bottom of my door, a light is coming through. He must have turned the hallway light on. He is now standing right in front of my door, casting 2 shadows from his shoes. My eyes not blinking, glued to his standing still feet. I'm completely under the covers, with only a small enough opening to peek through. I kid you not, he stands there, not budging for 10 minutes straight. Then finally, the shadows disappear. I stayed in the same position, under my covers, all the way through me falling asleep. But my sleep was interrupted. I woke up to feet shuffling across the shag carpet. I stayed completely still, holding my breath in 20-second spurts. I'm too scared to look. I hear my door open and close. I'm not sure if he left or was trying to trick me, thinking he was gone. I was filled with fear. I never moved. Was on pins and needles for what seemed an eternity. The door opens again. The hallway light illuminates my room. Then I hear, "Hey sweetie, it's Mom." I jumped out of bed and gave her a big hug. When she asked me how my babysitter was, I just changed the subject. I didn't even want to think about that scary creep. She tells me to get dressed because we're going out for breakfast. That instantly put me in a better headspace. As I'm getting ready, I notice nearly all of my underwear is gone. I'm in disbelief. No way did that man come into my room while I'm sleeping and steal my underwear. At 7 years old, I didn't really know what that meant or what I should do. I just got ready for breakfast and mentioned to my mom that we should go shopping afterwards because I needed more underwear. She looked at me and said, "Really? Me too." As a 16-year-old girl, I made a post about my availability to babysit in my neighborhood Facebook group. It turned out to be a great idea. Got some returning customers and made some much needed cash. I grew a very good reputation around the neighborhood. So much so that families I worked for would give my number out recommending me. One day I received a text from an unknown number asking me to babysit their 2 kids, Jake 10, Sarah 7. The parents were actually going to be out of town until the next morning. I was a little hesitant to accept because I've never done an overnight before, but my parents okayed it and the money was too good to refuse. I arrived to a big, beautiful home, and the parents seemed to be nice. They gave me the usual rundown as all parents do, telling me the rules of the house and things about their kids that I need to know. They mentioned that Jake was a handful. The mom actually said this 3 different ways before they left. I thought it was good to know, but I've dealt with difficult kids before and always came out on top. After the kids and I met and became comfortable with each other, we started to play a game of tag. The size of the house made this pretty easy. We were running around having a fun time. There was a particular spot I'd run to. It was around a pillar near the kitchen. But the last time I ran around the pillar, I immediately felt a sharp pain in the bottom of my foot. This was worse than any stub toe. We were all running around barefoot on the tile floor, and when I looked down to see what I stepped on, there was a thumbtack stabbed in the bottom of my left foot. What the hell was a thumbtack doing on the floor, I thought. But then I saw a handful of thumbtacks on the ground. These definitely were not here before. Still in pain, slowly pulling the thumbtack out, Jake comes running up and says, "Haha, you fell for my trap." I instantly become filled with rage. What the hell were you thinking? I'm really hurt. Why would you do this? Expecting some sort of heartfelt apology, he just shrugged his shoulders and said, "Sorry." So close to unleashing exactly how I felt. I took 10 minutes alone to calm myself down. Amazingly, it seemed to work. Later, we were all 3 in the backyard, and there were water balloons that we threw around for a while. And when we ran out of those, we filled up cups and water bottles and threw the water on each other. We were all 3 really enjoying it. So much so I even forgot about the thumbtack incident. Jake went inside while Sarah and I were still playing. Jake was gone for a while without hearing from him. I assumed he went to the bathroom, but he soon came back out. I saw him in the corner of my eye holding a huge cooking pot of water, but I also noticed all the steam that was coming off the water. He runs up and throws a boiling pot of water at me. Because I noticed this a split second earlier, I jumped out of the way to avoid getting the worst of it. Water splashed on the ground and got many drops on my feet and legs. Just the drops burned my skin. I would have gone to the hospital if I didn't move out of the way. What the hell was this demon kid doing? After the thumbtacks and boiling water, the picture of Jake is much clearer now. He's not difficult. He's mentally ill and a danger to me and his family. I didn't even ask him about the boiling water. I'm clearly not dealing with a normal kid. I sent them both to bed, hoping I won't have to see him until his parents get back. They each had their own room, and I was staying in the guest bedroom next to Sarah's. After I brushed my teeth and closed the bedroom door behind me, I locked it, laid in the bed thinking, what a sick, twisted kid. As I was close to dozing off, I heard one of the bedroom doors open. Now my door handle is moving. This demented 10-year-old boy is now trying to get me while I'm sleeping. Thank God the rooms have locks on them. Parents probably had to install them just because of Jake. I have absolutely no clue if this kid is out there with a knife or something. I'm not taking any chances. I'm not opening the door. I thought I'll stay here for as long as it takes. But then I thought, is he capable of doing anything to Sarah? My duties as a babysitter are bigger than me only thinking about my safety. I had to get to Sarah's room, but I wasn't going to open my door, period. So with mine and Sarah's room right next to each other, I opened my bedroom window, took the screen off, and crawled onto the roof. I then knocked on Sarah's window, where she saw me, but was confused. Climbed through her window and said, "How about just us girls share a room for the night?" She seemed excited. I went to lock her door, but it was already locked. Sarah must be used to Jake's behavior, but I didn't mention him once. Sarah and I stayed up late talking about school, boys, and only positive things. Jake never bothered us. The next morning the parents came. "I will never be babysitting for you again, and I think you know why." They just remained silent. I gave Sarah a big hug and grabbed my deserved money and never saw them again.